So I'm Michelle Owens. Thank you guys so much for coming. I have several of these speaking sessions, so I just really appreciate your allowing me to speak to the Medco group. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I am a professional EOS implementer. I help people get what they want from their business. So today we're going to talk about getting clarity. We're going to talk through six keys to getting what you want. And first, I'll just take a step back and tell you a little bit about my story. I am from the area. I grew up in an entrepreneurial family. I spent a lot of summers cleaning up messes in the construction business and in my dad's furniture business as well. And interestingly, I took that grit and the cleaning up into the corporate world. I spent about half of my career in locally owned corporate business, where I gained a lot of business skill sets, and spent time, like I said, cleaning up messes, and that getting things done that others maybe couldn't do. For instance, implementing technical program that multi-million dollars that had stalled for over a year because of the inability to communicate and bring people together to talk a common language, or getting executive buy-in for spending millions on an onboarding program and designing and implementing that for a $4 billion company. But what happened, my dad passed, and you can kind of take a step back, right? When life throws you curveballs. And I knew I wanted to get back to my roots. I'm an advocate for small business. I left a 6-figure a year job and went and ran a small business. And then I led in a business that implemented EOS, and it was transformational, not only for that company in the clarity and the efficiencies that they gained with EOS, but also in that I knew I had been with a number of companies, and you just see dysfunction and lack of clarity and maybe meeting inefficiencies, etc. There's a lot of things that small businesses, this is a tool for small businesses. There's a lot of things out there that I can help with. So I knew that someday I would take my facilitation and my training and my coaching skills and help more businesses apply this. And that someday came pretty suddenly last year with COVID. When COVID hit, I had an opportunity to become an EOS implementer. And so now I'm one of 450 implementers from around the world. And we've implemented close to 90,000 session days for over 10,000 companies. So this stuff really works. I highly encourage it for entrepreneurs. It's typically the market for this is entrepreneurs 10 to 250 in size, where things get a little more complicated. But I'd argue too, it's helpful for entrepreneurs. Micah, you're starting out in the real estate. Get really clear on what you want. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today, and getting clear on your values as a piece of getting clarity on 6 of the key components. So that's that. And that's my agenda really today. There's 3 things. I always get real with people. I'm really, you've got to be vulnerable and more afraid of the status quo than you are of change if you're interested in EOS. We keep it simple. It's not easy. It's a whole change process and how businesses run their business, but we keep it simple and we get results. It's proven to work to grow businesses. So that's what I'll break down today's conversation with. So let's start with get real. So there's a couple of things that people, they look to EOS for a couple of reasons. Maybe there's a lack of control. They've grown too fast and now there's a lack of control. Maybe there's inconsistent profit. That's one reason why companies would come to the EOS operating model. People, 80% of the issues we see are people, right? They're people related. People are complicated. And it's hard for people to go through change. And boy, we've sure seen a lot of it this last year. Hitting the ceiling. Maybe they've grown. I mean, every company goes through an evolution and a revolution, but they've hit the ceiling and they need to try something different. That'd be another reason. And then finally, they've tried all kinds of quick fixes. As a company, you're always running, you're running fast. So if nothing's working, EOS as an operating model is a potential solution especially for a small business. So what I want to talk to you about is a couple of things. I want to show you what do I mean when I say EOS. What am I referring to? And then I want to ask you guys about your frustrations in your business. And I have a couple of pictures to show you. But first, let me start with everything we do with EOS starts with the center with your business, right? So EOS was founded by an entrepreneur named Gino Wickman. And he's been an entrepreneur since the age of 21. 25, he was called in to run his dad's business. And he found it was in need of a turnaround, and he spent several years turning the business around. He was also a founding member of the Detroit EO Entrepreneurial Operating Chapter, and he found that he had a really good knack and skill for helping small businesses run. And so that's what this is. The EOS model is an entrepreneurial operating system. It's a holistic look at with complete system and tools to run your business holistically. It's not a software system. It's an operating system. It's how you run your business. And what it looks at is 6 core elements. As a business owner, you're running with 136 issues simultaneously. Look, things are coming at you. And to the extent that you can strengthen each of these 6 key components of your business, those 136 issues fall into place. And that's what Gino Wickman came to realize. And what he did is he pulled together a number of methodologies. Jim Collins, Patrick Lencioni, for example. Lots of business practices have been around for hundreds of years, and he pulled it all together. And it's just fascinating how it works. You got to look at your business holistically. So if you guys think about your business, and I'll walk around this, but the next thing I'm going to show you is pictures. How do you feel about your business? But let me start with vision. So I'm just going to walk around the model, and I'll share with you a component of each. Your vision. Everything you do in a business starts with your vision. You've got to have a strategy. Where are you going? Where are you going, and how are you going to get there? And is everybody aligned in your company on that vision? So that's the first element. The second is people. You cannot get to your vision if you don't have the right people in the right seats, or if you're not the right person in the right seat to drive your entrepreneurial business forward. But frankly, everyone defines the right people differently. So you have to figure out what's the right people. What's success look like to you to achieve your vision? The third element is data. It's running your business on a handful of objective facts and figures, things that help you predict the success of your business. Lots of times in entrepreneurial businesses, you may be running your business on subjective feelings, emotions. And so we get to the heart of what are 5 to 15 things that help you run your business more effectively. And once you strengthen vision, people, and data, that allows the issues to surface. And all of a sudden, those 136 issues come bubbling to the surface. And that takes us to the fourth component. So issues is the fourth component, and strengthening the issues component means that helping your business bring forward the issues, bring them up, knock them down, and solve them and make them go away forever. So I don't know about you guys, but I have been in so many meetings across the history of my career where you feel like you're repeating your issues. You feel like you're dealing with the same issues over and over again. You're having the same conversations. So what we do with EOS is we help you knock those issues down and make them go away forever. And then process. That's the fifth key component. Every business runs on process, right? So you have core processes that you run your business with. Maybe you are hiring people. You bring people in a certain way for your sales and marketing or your operations. How are you running your business? Maybe you're providing a product or a service. How are you running that? And then finance, right? The money's got to come in and out. You've got a handful of core processes, and we really focus on the 20% of core processes. Document those, not in a 30-page document, but document 20% of your core processes will help you achieve results. and then traction. So that's the last key component. Vision without traction is simply hallucination. If you don't instill discipline and accountability in everything that you do, you'll struggle to get vision. You'll struggle to say, if I want to go here, you'll struggle to get there if there's not discipline and accountability. And so there's a couple of tools and disciplines for every one of these core key components that we walk you through with your business. The goal is to get 100% strong. And the truth is, most entrepreneurial businesses are running at 20% strong and succeeding in spite of themselves. So if we can get you 100% strong in each of these key components and you're performing at least 80% or above, you're winning. So it helps strengthen small business. That's the model of EOS. And a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with this, right? They're like, I'm unique and it's different and I want to be free in the way I operate my business. And so I love this quote: systemize the predictable so that you can humanize the exceptional. That's pretty powerful. So that's part of the EOS model, is simply put in a handful of tools. And the cool thing is, with all of these tools, everything I show you and what I talk about today, we'll talk about taking action. You can take action with this. All these tools are available for you. You can self-implement. You can take pieces of it to start. You can call me with questions. There's a great community out there, or lots of companies hire implementers as well. But here's what I was referring to with the pictures. How do you feel as you're running your business? How do you feel? So I'll give you, for instance, and I'd like to take a walk around the team here. For instance, maybe you in your business feel like picture number 43. You're so busy, you're drowning. That's how you feel in your business recently. Tell me about how you guys feel, or how maybe Micah, for you, how what's your feelings of potentially going into the real estate market? How are you feeling? Julie, do you want to start?
Hey, well, right now I'm probably, feeling like that 45, based on the fact that the Kirkwood semester just finished. And I have all my class, everyone's graded, everyone's taken care of, and that sort of thing. Though it's certainly this last year, working with so many people with different issues related to COVID and even derecho and stuff like that, there's certainly sometimes it felt like very overwhelming to make sure we're helping everyone that we need to. So I don't know, man. I don't know which one looks, maybe 47 was the other. I was feeling at different times during this last year. And
yeah, so, that is a big order.
I know. I'm looking at all of these and I feel like over the past year, I have experienced every single one of them.
Oh, wow. Holy cow. Isn't that true? I never thought about that with COVID.
Yeah. Every single picture has been experienced in the last 13 months. That's crazy.
That is crazy.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Imagine the emotional toll on employees now. And I think that's why, the health and the emotional well-being of employees is becoming front and center for businesses to try to help through next.
1,000%. It's been a swing. Maybe if there was a big swing at the top of these pictures, then we just, swing from each one, because that's what it feels like. Yeah, those pictures are powerful. That's pretty cool. Thanks for sharing those.
Yeah. What about you, Micah? How are you feeling?
Oh, I don't know. Same. There's a lot of pictures that I seem to relate to. I'd have to say, I think almost 42 is probably the most. There's so much, especially like becoming into real estate, there's so much information that's being thrown at you that it kind of gets all jumbled up. But yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing. Brady, do you have any thoughts?
I mean, 47 was the one that came to mind, just trying to keep things moving. But yeah, there's a lot of different factors that weren't affecting your day to day, a year and a half ago. So
yeah,
especially this last mean, every day things are changing, right? I mean, I think we just saw what the governor did this morning. So I think I'm still trying to process what's going on in our kids' world now. So it just seems to, I mean, I know that's not work, but it's hard not to think about all these different rocks that are in our way. And I know that's a big thing, attraction, right? Is
Yeah.
parking lot rocks, all that fun stuff. So I guess that's kind of what came to mind for me is sometimes those rocks become a little bigger and tougher to push around when you're going uphill, right? So
Right. Oh my gosh. Emily, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I think I would agree with 47 too. I mean, again, like Michelle Klein said, I think I can see myself in all of these, but I think probably the most is 47 because I feel like we're always pushing something up the hill that seems really hard and big, but there's light at the end of the tunnel, which I feel like that picture shows. So
yeah,
I want to feel 48 though, right? I
know
moments of that all the time, and I have to stop and remember that. But it seems like 47 and 48 are happening at the same time.
Yeah, I think we need to celebrate what we have achieved as well, and we've achieved a lot together, and so I feel that's interesting about all of these. But 48, I have 2 business partners, so I'm really feeling a lot with 48 now, and there's a lot of promise. Businesses are hungry to do better. Especially with EOS, it's a complete operating model that just really seems to speak to people because there isn't something, there aren't other things like it out there. So, all right. So thank you for sharing. Now we're going to basically take it to the keep it simple. So thank you for being vulnerable and real. And that's really, with EOS, that's what we always ask for. We work with leadership teams to help them get what they want from their business. But the only way they can get what they want from their business is to be real and vulnerable with each other and themselves. Sometimes you think you have it, maybe you don't. Sometimes you think all the answers, and leaders don't have all the answers. So how do we bring employees in to help solve some of these issues? And we start by keeping it simple. Now, with EOS, there's a few foundational tools. We're going to touch on one of these tools, VTO. So if you hear the word VTO, it's called Vision Traction Organizer. And for anybody that's worked in business, sometimes your strategy is 30 pages long. And what we do is when we talk about keeping it simple, it's about simplifying. So it's I say 2 pages. It's really on a 1-page document, front and back. Vision. And again, you got to have traction if you're going to succeed in that vision. So we'll talk about that. Accountability. This is actually something when I'm bringing teams in, we start with accountability. Because you can't say I'm going to be in 10 states in a $1 billion company if you don't have accountability and who's doing what. So that's a foundational tool with EOS that we start with. Rocks. So Brady mentioned rocks. Everything with EOS we do in 90 days because you've got a million things to do as a business, but we got to break it into chunks and bite-sized pieces. And so we say, if you're going to achieve X in 10 years, and you want to look like Y in 3 years, and you're going to do X in 1 year, what do you need to do in the next 90 days? Those are rocks. And we call them rocks because if you think about rocks in the sense of you've got 2 glasses in front of you, and 1 glass, you put in your rocks first, and then your pebbles, and then your sand, and then your water, it all fits in the glass. But if you take the same components and flip that upside down, which is sometimes what we do in business, right? You're solving the quick things. You got emergencies, you've got emails, you've got this and that and the other. Have you ever been at the end of your day and you're like, oh my goodness, what did I get done today? Because you're kind of in the water and the sand. And if you put the water in first and the sand and then the pebbles and the rocks, it doesn't fit. So that's why we really focus on what are the big things that you need to accomplish to achieve your goals this quarter. That's it. Everything else is on a list. You're not going to forget about it, but you're going to really focus. So we talk about focus and less is more with EOS. And meeting pulse. Regardless, Mike, I'm not sure who you'll meet with in the real estate industry, but there are likely weekly, monthly, quarterly, and annual meetings that help you build your skills. What is your meeting pulse? So one of the things that we teach as a foundational tool is you've got to have a meeting pulse. If you're running a business and you've got 10 people in your business, what is your meeting pulse? And when we talk about that as a foundational tool, we talk about you meet at the same time with the same leadership group and you cover the same agenda every week like clockwork. You don't miss a beat. And then you stop. What it helps with is you kind of stop the solving problems at the water cooler, addressing issues on the fly. The loudest person in the meeting gets their issues addressed first. There's a clear process and methodology to have meetings. And then scorecard. So one of the things I mentioned before is if you're going to strengthen the data component of your business, you've got to have metrics. Keep it small. 5, I'd say for a small business, 5 scorecard metrics. It's enough to see what's the success of your business. But 5 to 15, no more than 15. Okay. So let's dive a little bit deeper. We're going to touch on vision. So when we talk about vision component and strengthening the vision component of your business, we're talking about answering 8 questions as one of the tools and disciplines for your business. And this information is available. I'm happy to send it to somebody if you're wanting these 8 questions. It is, and I'll walk through them quickly and then we'll move to the next slide. What are your core values? What is your core focus? What is your 10-year target? What is your marketing strategy? What about your 3-year picture? Your 1-year goal, your 1-year plan, your quarterly goals or rocks, and what are your issues list? Those are the 8 questions we take clients through. And we answer those 8 questions over a 2-day window. And so here's the vision side of the VTO and the traction side of the VTO. These are the 8 questions. This is a tool available for you to use in your business today. Again, I can send you a digital copy of this, or it's also available on eosworldwide.com, and I'll show you that at the very end. So we want to make sure that entrepreneurs are using these tools for the success of your business. We count on small businesses to be successful. So let's touch on core values. Does anybody have a set of core values that they're using in their business today? Anybody have core values? Core values meaning, and let's talk about that next. So when I'm talking core values, I'm saying what is the heart and soul of your company? What are the key characteristics that define the culture of who you are? 1 to 5 things. That's it. And more so than words on a wall, for instance, when we talk about core values, we're talking about simple. 3 to 7 words for each core value. You want them more than the words on the wall because you want to live and breathe your core values. You want to hire to these core values. You want to reward to these core values. You want to recognize. You want to define your processes around these core values. Everything you do is around these core values. And I would argue, let's say you have 10 people, 20 people, 50 people. Everyone in your company should know what your core values are. If you ask anybody in your company, they should know what their core values are. Verbatim. That's why we say simple and less is more. So let me ask you, one of the ways that we help people to define their core values is you can't make this stuff up. You can't say, I'd like to be this, or I aspire to be that. You discover your core values because you have a culture, whether you know it or not, you have a culture. And so we help people discover what their core values. So let's take a minute and let's do an exercise. Okay, so let's do a discovery exercise. Think of 3 people in your business, or maybe that's you, or maybe that's an employee, or it could be a vendor or a customer. 3 people in or closest to your business that if you had 100 of them, you would just be killing it. Think for a minute. I'm going to pause for a minute and think about who 3 people might be. Now ask yourself why. What are their three best traits? Like for each person, just list their best trait. What is their best trait?
Like leading by example is a big one.
Lead by example. Okay. Awesome. Michelle, what do you think?
There we go. So I can get off mute. Well, which business do you mean? My own. It's just me. But when I'm here, I'm thinking of Nick and Brady and Emily and I'm thinking flexible. I think Emily touched on it a little bit ago, and I would say we all kind of possess that because things really aren't ever the same here. So flexibility, I guess I would say, would actually cover every single one of us in this office. I wouldn't just pin that on one person.
Mm-hmm.
I would say creativity and innovation.
I pulled up what we go by as our playbook. We kind of like, how do we behave? It's kind of what we call it.
Okay.
Like and I'll just read it real quick. We behave by being leaders, stay fresh, ask why not. The example, set a new bar by elevating expectations. We behave by being trustworthy, deliver on all promises, and we behave by being devoted advocates, all in marrying first. So just, I think that's a kind of a good summary of the focus of who we are and what behaving that way. I guess I like the way that's worded.
Yeah, how you're behaving. I love that. Now, what I encourage people to do is take that farther. So for instance, do you have any of those values or those behaviors in how you bring people in? Or if you're a business, for instance, finding the right clients. So I know that was a question earlier. How do you market? Well, first of all, you want to market to people that have your similar values, right? So I only work with companies who are vulnerable, who are open, willing to change, who want to be their best, who are willing to be coached, and then that who want to do EOS purely. That's who I work with. And the thing about understanding your values and living and breathing them in that way with clients as an example is I'm setting myself up for success. Because otherwise, right, if I'm working with other clients, then I'm not going to meet their needs, and that affects my reputation. I don't want that, right? And I want them to be successful. So we want to create win-wins. Or how you're hiring. How many times have you made the wrong hire because maybe you didn't dig deep enough into their behaviors or their values of what's important to them. If you have somebody, for instance, at the Medco that's less flexible, that they're going to struggle, right? And you want to create that win-win regardless of who you're working with, clients, external, internal, with your team members, but also how you reward and how are you recognizing. So for instance, if you see somebody in doing or that's expressing a value in a really great way, you want to recognize that behavior because you want to make sure that you're propelling that behavior and those values forward. So it's really, really, really important to dig deep on your values and brainstorm and think about ways how can you bring these to life. Because it's fascinating what companies come up with. Even gifts for Christmas, if you celebrate the holiday, you think about how do you incorporate values into that. There's so many things you can do with values, and oftentimes we leave it as in it's part of our mission and it's on the wall and it's on our website, and we kind of leave it at that. And we look at it once in a while. These, like I said, if everyone knows these, imagine the power of that. It's pretty fun and powerful. All right, the next thing we'll look at, and again, this is part of the VTO, your vision traction organizer, and part of strengthening your vision is to get really clear on the 8 questions. The second question that we work through is, what is your core focus? And it's fascinating with entrepreneurs how tough this is. But the first thing you want to ask yourself is, why do I do what I do? Why? Fundamentally, what is your sweet spot for your business? What is your purpose? What is your cause? What is your passion? Why do you get up in the morning and do what you do for your business? Why did you start a business? Why, ask yourself why and keep digging. And it's been called a million things, right? Over the history of business. It's been called mission statement. It's been called the voice. It's been called the hedgehog concept. It's been called lots of things in business. We call it core focus because it's important. It's important that you are focused on who you are at the core, why you do what you do. If you think about the Apple phones, right? They don't advertise by saying, look at this great phone, right? It's the why. It's kind of the Simon Sinek of the world. Why should you care? Why does it tie to your emotion? And it's big. It's 3 to 7 things. It has an aha effect. It is not about money. What is that core focus? And then, or why do you have that focus? And then what is your niche? What do you do better than anyone? What is the sweet spot of your company? Focusing on that. Moving on to the third question in the VTO, it is the 10-year target. If you don't know where you're going, how does your team know where you're going? What is the number one goal for your business? The number one thing you're going after. We call it a 10-year target, but it's flexible based on your needs, right? It could be 5 to 30 years out. Somebody mentioned that they're taking over a business. Where do you want to be in 5 years? What does that look like? 10-year target. You really want to take the time to understand what that is, because everything we do builds around that. So if you, for instance, want to go and expand into 10 states, or I'll give you a few examples. With EOS worldwide, 100,000 clients running on EOS by 2030. Everyone, all of the 400 and some implementers, we all know exactly what that 10-year target is. So you want everyone in your business to know where are you going? Because people can't take you there if they don't know. You can't get there if you don't know. So let's do another exercise and take a minute. And I would love for you guys to fill in the blank. Why are you passionate about your purpose is this blank cause helps with spam. So start with the why, then move to the what. What do you do better than anyone else? And then talk about the when. In X years, I'd like to. I'll give you 5 minutes. 1 minute remaining. All right. So I'll start with a few examples, and then I'd love a volunteer as far as where you're at. So you're always starting with your why. Disney, to make people happy. Again, it's not I'm a a Disney World. I have rides. It's to make people happy. Then riches in the niches. The what? So for instance, Orville Redenbacher, popcorn, right? And then the 10-year target, the big, hairy, audacious goal, the SMART goal. Coca-Cola, which I love, put a Coke within the reach of every human being on the planet. That's pretty powerful, right? Or Atlas Oil, 5 billion gallons. That's kind of the why, the what, and the when. Anyone want to go share theirs?
I put Tara on the spot, but not on the spot. And sort of to this question, but it was back when you were talking about niche, because you're talking about kind of taking over for something. Yeah. So how do you feel about that? Do you come up with your own niche? What's your thought?
Well, I've worked here for 20 years and been kind of running it for the last 5 years. So it's been a slow transition over the years, but also the agent is my father as well as the head agent currently. And, he's almost 70 years old. His vision of how to do things and things like that are much different than mine. He doesn't Google where, he pulls out a phone book still, so things like that. So we are, and it's also that legacy thing. We have a vision of growth that we are going to write X amount of policies and open up a second agency and some things like that, that we are not only proving to ourselves, but to him, to the company, that we can do it. We can do it. So right now is what we're focusing on before the transaction is final, is really getting our staff vested and getting them to be part of that vision. And I can't do it without them. That's just plain and simple. So really it's getting them vested. And for me, my biggest challenge at this point is delegation. Being able to give up that control and give it to somebody. And that's my hardest thing, is saying, okay, and I have an amazing staff. It's not that they can't do it. It's just me giving up that. So, in order to meet my goals, I have to be able to do that and delegate and let people do what I hired them to do. And so we've started implementing some of this stuff like Michelle was talking about. I have a meeting with my marketing manager once a week. What are you working on? What's our goal? What are we going to have done by next week? And with my staff. And that's kind of been getting our new systems in place to how to meet our vision.
Awesome.
Well, thanks.
Thank you for sharing. Hopefully you can use these tools. So that's really, I just really want to get people thinking about what's the framework, what's their foundation. And so that's really the third element. We talked about get real, keep it simple, and get results. And so I always talk about results. And again, vision without traction is hallucination. So how are we going to get results for your team and your company? These are, when I talked about the 6 key components, there are specific tools and discipline across each of the 6 key components that we help strengthen. But I'd like you to take a couple of next steps. So dive deeper on your values. If you have your values, for instance, Medco, you have behaviors, you have those values. Dive deeper. Think about, add depth with stories as an example. So you're showing these values when we see X. We're demonstrating these values with Y. And then look at your core focus. Commit to and stay focused on that sweet spot. It's kind of like that baseball, right? If you're not going to hit that ball out of the park, if you don't stay focused on that sweet spot, that doesn't mean that you can't, if you're selling popcorn, you can't look at your vertical market, or you can't approach popcorn in a broader way, but you really have to focus on what you're good at. And then 10-year target. Make a decision and stick with it. So if it's 5 years and you want to do X, I should say make a decision, right? Every year you relook at where are you going? You could potentially pivot. Of course, entrepreneurial companies need to pivot all the time, but what is your 10-year target? So dig deeper on what we talked about today. That's the number one, get results that you can do. Also, if anybody wants, I have traction books. This describes, especially in the first 13 pages, I can send you a digital copy of the first 13 pages, or I can get you a book. You can swing by and get a book if you want. Read this for your business. It will help. So take that action. The second thing is there's lots of resources out there. So there are free tools. Everything we talked about today, I have a workbook. I'm happy to send this to you. And it has, for instance, and I'll show you. It has the VTO, the Vision Traction Organizer. So if you want this, just let me know. I'm happy to send it to you. EOSworldwide.com. There's lots of tools. Just go to EOSworldwide.com. EOS tools are out there. We want small businesses to be successful. Join the local community. If you are self-implementing, if you know of an EOS company that's self-implementing, has another implementer, wants to know more, join the community. One of our values is to help first. So we truly live by that. I can, for instance, pick up the phone and call any one of my 400 peers, and they will absolutely put me on their calendar or talk to me that day, and we'll talk through a business issue. It's fascinating, but help first is part of our values, and that's what we believe in. If you want to join the local community, I'm building it now. I'm the first implementer in this market, in this community. Des Moines has, I think there's 6 EOS implementers in Des Moines. But as the word gets out about EOS in this market, I really want to make sure that we're helping each other be successful. So if you want to do that, just email me. And then if you have a team and if you want to dig deeper and understand the 6 key components and the tools and disciplines for each of the 6 key components, you can book a free 90-minute meeting with me. I'm happy to walk the leadership team through that if it's something you're interested in. So those are resources. Take action today and to get results. So my final thoughts for you, keep it simple always, no matter what you take out of today. Business is simple, keep it simple. And remember, people are complicated. Everybody reacts to what's happening around them differently. And so while EOS is a complete set of simple tools and disciplines to get you everything you want from your business, people make it a little tougher, right? It's more complicated. So it takes a while if you want to operate your business in a different way, have patience, take it one step at a time, and you will be successful. Simple tools, good discipline, so that you get what you want. Those are my final thoughts. Thank you. Does anybody have questions?
Yeah, I do. Okay,
Yeah.
First of all, I just put your email in the chat.
Okay.
Everybody. So if you guys want to take a peek in chat, Michelle's email's in there. Okay, so just because I know we're close to time. So when you say there's 400 of you, so what was your training? How did you get to become one of the 400?
Yeah, so you go through an interview process, and then you go through a training that we call boot camp. And then you, like right now, I have weekly sessions with my peers. So weekly, I meet for 2 hours with my peers to continue to develop and train. So I have the initial interview, then the boot camp, then the training every week, peer sessions and training every month, peer sessions and training every quarter. We meet for a day in our quarterly collaboration exchange, more training, peer networking, and engaging in scenarios. Because so many scenarios, I mean, it's like every business is a snowflake, right? It's not the same. While you have the same tools and disciplines, what you want from your tenure is different than the next company is different than the next company. How you get there is different, right? So all those nuances. So long answer, but that's the process.
Okay, then my follow-up question. Sorry, and then somebody else can go. So how are you finding your customers? Are they finding you? Are you finding them? I'm sure it's both, but what's
yeah. The best way that I found clients is people when companies implement EOS in their business, they're seeing growth and success. And so their testimonials, their referrals, that's the number one.
Okay.
The second thing is connectors. So there's, for instance, a number of consultants out in the industry, right, in our marketplace, but no one's providing the EOS. So if there all those frustrations we talked about, company, it's chaotic, or they want control, or they want to proactively look at the future of their company, I get referrals from connectors and consultants and companies. And then speaking to groups like you, if there's an interest, that's where I get leads as well.
Got it. Okay, thanks. Sorry to hijack all the questions. Does anybody else have any questions?
Well, Michelle, I was wondering, what is the, you said as far as like the networking and things like that, can you kind of tell us what that would look like if we would email you and want to be part of that? What would that look like for us as business owners?
Sure. The biggest thing is I'm trying to find, there's a number of companies in the area that do self-implement, or that maybe before I came, they're with other implementers, right? Other people are coming in from out of state and out of town to implement companies in the market. So the first thing I'm doing is collecting all those names. And I have networking events like coffee. I have workshops, for instance. I have a workshop coming up in June. And we have semi-annual workshops in Des Moines as well. And so those sessions, for instance, we solve issues in those sessions. Twice a year, we get together and we solve issues. So it's helpful when you're running on EOS because businesses are talking the same language. And so it's really the biggest benefit for you is getting to know other companies. So like, okay, what did you do with your core values? Or how did you do this? Because the companies that work with us are also help first. They have a help first mindset. So anyway, does that kind of give you an idea?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Anybody else have anything? Well, thank you so much. I now can officially say I know what EOS is.
Yeah, I just really appreciate if anyone knows of a company that would like to get control of their operations and think about doing something in a different way, just send it my way.